It is close to 4 years ever since Afandi Felix Kawesu was gunned down. Now today, court orders Uganda prisons to produce the suspects in the hearing of his murder case. We have the story in our bulletin today. Welcome to TV Africa News. Hope you had a beautiful day. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahabe Kajura, but first to the headlines. Court orders Uganda prisons to produce the suspects in the hearing of Afandi Kawesu's murder. African leaders pay tribute to the late Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli. And in our sports today, Chad disqualified from Africa Cup of Nations. Well, let's have the news in detail. The International Crimes Division of High Court has ordered the Uganda Prison Service to produce physically 2 of the 6 suspects facing charges of murdering of former police spokesperson Andrew Felix Kawesu. We have more.
This was after the 2 accused persons, including Higenyi and Mbazira, being absent in court after the prison authorities revealing that they had been served the production warrant very late. Following this, the pre-trial judge Duncan Gaswaga has ordered the prisons to have Mbazira and Higenyi produced in court physically starting May 10th to 14th, 2021 for the pre-trial hearing to commence. Andrew Felix Kawesu was shot dead alongside his bodyguard Kenneth Erau and driver Godfrey Mambewa on March 17, 2017 in Kulambiro in Nakawa Division, Kampala, by 2 people who were reportedly moving on motorcycles, and as a result, 8 people were charged with trial murder and later granted bail. However, 2 people, that is Abdurrashid Mbazira and Aramadhan Higenyi, were kept in Luzira prison battling other charges of child trafficking. On these charges, which are still pending before the Mukono Chief Magistrates Court, prosecution alleges that the duo and others between 2016 and March 19, 2017 in Busia District transported 6 minors and hid them in Mukono District for the purposes of exploitation. The 6 who are granted bail include Burhan Balyejusa, Shafiq Kasuja, Yusuf Nyanzi, Jibril Kalyango, Joshua Chambade and Yusuf Mugerwa.
Thank you so much, our reporter Nalugu. Now, it has been 4 years ever since Assistant Inspector General of Police Andrew Felix Kawesu was killed, but justice has never been delivered. Our reporter Kachanchu has compiled a full report on this case.
Kawesu, together with his driver Geoffrey Wambewa and bodyguard Kenneth Erau, were shot dead on March 17, 2017, a few meters away from Kawesu's home in Kulambiro, Kampala, as they went to work. Initially, about 50 suspects were arrested by a joint team of Police Chieftaincy of Military Intelligence and Internal Security Organization. They were detained and interrogated in various places over time. After protracted interrogations by security units, nearly half of the suspects were dropped from the indictment due to lack of evidence against them. Only 23 were taken to court and charged, of which 15 were released on bail. The remaining 8 were indicted for aggravated robbery, murder and terrorism, including Ramadhan Higenyi, Abdul Rashid Mbazira, Shafiq Kasuja, Joshua Chambade Magezi, Yusuf Mugerwa, Burhan Balyejusa, Yusuf Nyanzi, and Jibril Kalyango. One of their defense lawyers, Mr. Anthony Wameli, said they expected the case to resume this week. Some of those arrested were said to be Allied Democratic Force rebels who were later remanded. They included Ahmed Semfuka, Moses Intende, Hassan Tumsime, Ibrahim Kiza, Hamid Magambo, Abdul Majid Ojerere, Sauda Ayub, Osman Muhammad Omar, and Asman Mugoya. After more than 6 months on remand without trial, they appealed for bail in Nakawa Chief Magistrates Court. About 22 of them sued government for torture during detention by security personnel. Defense lawyers accused the prosecution of keeping their clients on trial or in prison unjustifiably. Prosecution has also been accused of delivering exhibit reports to the defense in bits instead of one lump. In October 2017, the High Court ruled in their favor and awarded them compensation of 1.7 billion shillings. In May 2018, the investigators followed another tip presented by Internal Security Organization that Kaweesi could have been killed by his colleagues over an alleged power struggle. The team investigated several implicated senior officers, including then Inspector General of Police General Kali Kayihura and former commander of the Flying Squad Herbert Muhangi. The families of both the accused and the victims have been waiting for justice for 4 years and are watching to see whether the case will finally kick off next week. TV Africa, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with more news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. Now, Tanzania is still mourning as presidents of various African nations on Monday, including South Africa, Kenya, Zimbabwe, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, gave speeches at the state funeral of the now deceased Tanzanian head of state, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli, whose sudden death was declared on Wednesday. We have more.
Mourning for the fallen President John Pombe Magufuli continues with more heads of states led by Magufuli's widow Janet Magufuli and his newly sworn-in successor, President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who has announced a 21-day mourning period in the country. It was officially communicated by the government that he had died from a heart condition, although opposition leader Tundu Lissu alleges his passing was attributed to coronavirus-related complications. After the public viewing of the late president's body on Monday in the capital Dodoma, his remains will be flown to the northwestern city of Mwanza and from there to his hometown of Chato, where he is due to be buried on Friday. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
Now, the longtime Republic of Congo President Denis Sassou Nguesso appears on course to win a fourth term, according to the early results on Monday, as vote counting continues and despite the death of his main rival. Let's take a look at the story.
Sunday's presidential election was overshadowed by the sudden death of Denis Sassou Nguesso's main rival, Guy Brice Parfait Colelas, who passed away from coronavirus on polling day. Provisional official results from 35 polling stations indicated that Sassou Nguesso, 77, was on track for a landslide first-round victory. Final results are expected later this week. Tallies from about 40% of the 86 districts showed that Sassou Nguesso is ahead and in some areas won 100% of the vote, according to Reuters. In the Poto-Poto district of the capital Brazzaville, he had picked up 89.15% of the vote, according to figures issued by the Electoral Commission.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, thousands of people demonstrated over the weekend in European countries against coronavirus restrictions on the day France and Poland began imposing new partial lockdowns, and as other nations consider similar moves to curb soaring infections. We have more. Germany, the Netherlands, Austria, Bulgaria, Switzerland, Romania, Serbia, Poland, France, and Britain also demonstrations of varying magnitude and with various local factors coming into play. Across Europe, protesters railed against the dictatorship of pandemic health restrictions and what they see as an attack on fundamental freedoms. Some rallies degeneration into clashes with the police. In the UK, at least 36 people were arrested and several police officers injured during an anti-lockdown protest in London. There were clashes in Kassel in central Germany, where federal police brought in beforehand used pepper spray, batons, and water cannons to deal with protesters, as an estimated 20,000 turned out. Police said several people were detained. While the European and the US has said that the sanctions against Myanmar's army cannot hide the fact that the Southeast Asian countries' democracy movement is largely on its own. We have more.
Since the military took over power in Myanmar on February 1st, the country has seen sometimes deadly mass protests demanding the restoration of the civilian government and the release of political prisoners. Despite the volatile situation, developments in the country have so far not dominated the international diplomatic agenda. As far as what was made known publicly, the events in Myanmar were not part of the recent US-China meetings in Alaska, the first high-level talks between the two sides since President Joe Biden took office. The United Nations Security Council on March 10 managed to pass a resolution condemning the violence against peaceful protesters in Myanmar and pledging continued support for the democratic transition in the country.
Well, let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with more news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the bright to know. Now, talking news, Tunisia has launched its first satellite manufactured locally, seen as a small step for aerospace, but a big one for the country. We have more. Tunisia is the first country in the Maghreb to manufacture its own satellite, and the 6th on the African continent. The satellite, called Challenge 1, is intended for the internet connectivity, was launched into space Monday. The small satellite will be launched by a Russian Soyuz spacecraft from Boyikna and Baikna, Kazakhstan. Tunisia says it hopes to launch 20 more in the next 3 years. The African space market is now worth over $7 billion annually, according to the website Space in Africa, which reports that it is likely to grow over 40% in the next 5 years. Well, away from business, in our health news today, South Africa has concluded the sale of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines to other African Union member states because it failed to offer minimal protection against mild to moderate illness caused by the local variant. We have more.
The Health Ministry in South Africa said on Sunday that after suspending AstraZeneca inoculations after a small trial, it had sold all the doses of AstraZeneca jabs it had acquired to other African Union countries. At that time, South Africa had received 1 million AstraZeneca doses from India and other 500,000 doses pending. The ministry said it had in the past weeks worked to ensure that all member states identified by the AU had obtained all regulatory approvals, permits and licenses to roll out the vaccines. The first batch of vaccines being delivered will benefit 9 member states and the balance will be collected this week and be delivered to 5 other member states.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, in our sports news today, the Uganda Cranes camp is in a buoyant mood after more foreign-based players arrived in the country and joined the team based at the Cranes Paradise Hotel in Chisasi. We have more.
The quartet of seasoned midfielders Moses Waisa and Alan Chambade plus Sweden-based defender Ronald Mchiri have joined the team, bringing the total of 21 players of the 29 expected. The Uganda Cranes assistant coach Abdallah Mubiru said Cranes team that his team has everything to overcome Burkina Faso and Malawi since qualification became a habit in Uganda. Uganda will play Burkina Faso on Wednesday 24th March at St. Mary's Stadium in Chitende in the second last Group B 21 Total AFCON Cup of Nations qualifier game before taking on Malawi in the final group fixture for 4 days later.
This is a very massive game. It's a huge game for everyone. I've been lucky to be in the last 2 editions that we've qualified for. But I think it's always the same. The spirit is always the same. The fight you have to put up to qualify. It's never easy, and we need to fight and make sure we go back. It will be very good for us as a nation to have that continuation if we qualify for the 3rd time in a row.
A total of 18 players took part in the morning training session under the guidance of assistant coach Abdallah Mubiru, Livingston Babazi, and Alfred Kajiva, the goalkeeping coach. Katende Chabasinga, reporting for TV Africa.
While still in our sports news, the Confederation of African Football has disqualified Chad from qualifying for the African Cup of Nations on Monday because the country's government dissolved the Soccer Federation and ordered to forfeit 2 games scheduled for this week as 3-0 losers. We have more.
Masepe was elected unopposed as part of the deal broken by FIFA President Gianni Infantino. FIFA now honors member federation to be suspended when government are believed to have interfered in the independence of elected soccer officials.
Now, before we end the bulletin, let's take a look at the top stories. Court orders Uganda prisons to produce the suspects in the hearing of Afandi Kaweesi's murder. African leaders pay tribute to the late Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli. And in our sports today, Chad disqualified from Africa Cup of Nations. Well, that was Africa Today. Thank you so much for watching with us from where we started. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.
This is Africa, and that was the news.